Thank you, Darryl. And I think what makes Trinity a great place is the diversity of its students and its staff. And now for something very different, because there's huge diversity in its deans. On behalf of Health Sciences, when Helen asked us to consider giving a presentation here tonight, and she commissioned us with a question. And the question that she asked, and there is slides which somebody can run, she said the main question was, what does the library of the future look like for your faculty, for your researchers and for your students, in light of the digital and social shift underway? And one of the first things I thought about was, will I give my own opinion on this? And coming from a healthcare background, it's always about the consumer. So I decided I would ask the consumer body within the Faculty of Health Sciences, that being the staff and students, and in a wild thought, I decided I'd send out a survey. And I gave them 4 fundamental questions. And the first question I gave them was, what do we have in libraries that you would like to retain? What don't we have in libraries today? In other words, what is it that you would like to achieve or preserve? What don't we have in libraries today that you would like to have in the future? What is it that you would like to achieve? What don't you have that you don't want? What is it that you would like to avoid? And what do you have now that you don't want? And what would you like libraries to stop doing in the future? What is it you would like libraries to eliminate? Oftentimes, of course, when we begin to think about new ideas, we forget to step back and think about what is really good about what we already have. And sometimes we lose some of the really good things that is core to the history of Trinity. I thought I would get perhaps 20 responses, and I was happy with that. But instead of that, I got over 170 responses in the last 2 weeks from students, from staff, a huge multidisciplinary mix across the schools. And this is what they said. And I want to thank Ailish, who's here with me, one of my students, who created this Wordle from all of these responses, because there was as many as nearly 30 pages of information. I asked people to give me 2 sentences under each area. And in relation to what people said that they wanted to preserve, and I think, is there somebody moving slides, yeah? Or can I move them myself? Yeah, good. Yes, to preserve. And one of the big issues that came out really strong and over again, people spoke about the expert subject librarians. People spoke at length about how critical they were, how they had such a body of knowledge, how they were such a critical part of the fabric of the schools, regardless of what happened in the future, that it was going to be critical that we retained the subject librarian. So this is what people really told us. They asked us to that the visual, as probably this quote very much sums up what people said. They said the visual and atmospheric experience of the physical library was much more than the books and can be most conducive to an environment of learning and productivity. So people were very anxious that technology was great, but they really valued the human experience currently within the library and wanted to not digitalise everything. When the people asked us what they wanted to achieve, really what they were very much looking for, and it very much mirrors what Helen has outlined in the strategy, they spoke about the library as a space, and they spoke at length and there was numerous quotes in relation to the issue and the subject of space. They talked about a collaborative space, greater digital access, dedicated space for collaboration, and the Provost talked about this issue of having different space, a variety of space, places where people can work alone, places where people can work together. They spoke about having digitalization, and particularly spoke about things that we're not doing at the moment, things like theses, more computers, more places where people can think, and more places where people can actually network together. So really what the people spoke about was having a space, but spaces, a multiplicity of spaces, and that all of these spaces would look different and would have a different purpose. And I think that was an interesting concept, and as I've seen what Helen had mapped out in the strategy, I think it very much spoke to that. So they talked about the issue as well, the importance of improved marketing, and particularly around the skills of the librarian, and great relevance for the future, and felt that these were underused and that there was an opportunity here to improve on this. Again, in relation to space, they spoke about quiet areas, more collaborative space, individual pods, booths, hotspots for informal areas, and a catalyst for new ideas and collaboration. Digitalization, again, they spoke about the capacity to access stimulated environments and computer-generated imagery, and this was something that came up multiple times in the feedback we received. And again, they spoke about the criticalness of the environment not suffering from the Rosetta Stone syndrome, and that regardless of whatever type of digitalisation happened, that it was really important that people were able to understand and it was upwardly usable. In relation to what they felt that we should avoid in the future, they felt a total computerised service, people replaced by machines, a library without books, reduced staffing, loss of physical space, unnecessary books, a stuffy atmosphere, and no specialist. So, food for thought, I think, was an automatic library process that removes the personal contact with library staff. No, thank you. A library without books, over-reliance on technology, and overcrowding needed space. One direction, pipe music everywhere. It was interesting that when it came to the category about what we should eliminate, this was the least populated area. And some of the issues which emerged from this was things like, that came out strongly from multiple people, unofficial desk reserving, outdated materials, wooden floors, unnecessary usage of limited resources, concrete walls and ceilings, poorly rated publications, and noisy windows. And all of these things came up multiple times. They spoke about the no need to retain outdated material. And these are some quotes. Said the library needs to be able to identify material that will ensure its resources are not wasted, trying to store everything, focusing on preserving knowledge of consequence. And in an era of information overload, it is impossible to archive everything that is published. And they spoke again and again about this issue of noise and leaky headphones. So strategy linkages, and I think this is interesting. So if you look at what Helen has outlined in the strategy moving forward, I think there's a very close correlation. This was nearly like a litmus test, which happened after the strategy was published. And I think we can see that there's a very close alignment with what the staff, 170 responses said in the Faculty of Health Sciences, to what they wanted in a new library. And I think it really does support what is outlined in the strategy. So you can read those there for yourselves, but a space conducive to collaborative research and learning, digitalisation and online access, e-books and journals, continued expertise, education and training. And I think really, to sum up really what the overall feeling of what responses that people gave was really that the library of the future needs to be able to serve and facilitate a dynamic academic workforce. The library should aim to operate as a hub for teaching, learning and research for all students, lecturers and educators. And it was critical within health sciences particularly that they was able to connect to our linked and outreached areas. So it was much more, so this was really a key issue which emerged particularly for our colleagues in our hospitals. So this was key. They felt it was best organised as a collaborative study space, incorporating active learning, i.e. breakout groups in areas, in addition to contemplation areas, such as quiet areas, and these needed to be retained. The modern library offers digital media access across various means, hot desk groups areas, with such access which will prompt learning opportunities across the mediums. Finally, the Library of the Future will pride itself on offering instant access to local and global information which will stimulate new knowledge generation through teaching, learning and global research. Knowledge is free. Just bring your container. Thank you.